Hi everybody, Velman Metha here, and I'm back with more stories from my favorites list. Sorry it's been a while. Like I said, I said before in the last video, I went on vacation with my parents for a bit, and school just started up, so I'm trying to get back into the swing of work, and yeah, it's, there's... Right now it's a little bit, but it's going to be going for a lot. So let's just get back. Again, for those of you that don't know, I've sorted this. I've gone to my favorites list on fanfiction.net, sorted them by publication date, and I am rereading them, seeing if they deserve to stay on my list still. All right. First up, let's lower this up. First up, we have Naruto the Black Mage by Kyrrlatur. And this is Naruto, when he's 3 years old, goes to the Kyuubi Death Festival, and a cliché mob gathers to kill him. They eventually get such a cliché burlap sack to go, kidnap him, and then leave him to die in a spooky cave, such a cliché location. There he meets Lulu from Final Fantasy X, who was apparently just stuck there as an unsent, and she decides, I'm going to raise him and teach him to be a black mage. And then after he becomes 14, he decides, hey, I hate Konoha and all that stuff, but you know what? Let's go back and become a ninja. Why not? Okay. So all those cliches that I said, literally when I said, hey, it's a cliche mob, he literally says that in the story, that hey, this is what they did, isn't it so cliche, like that and that. And okay, so he was trying to lampshade the fact that these are cliches. I get that, but he doesn't do anything else with them. He just putting a lampshade on it, just pointing them out isn't really lampshading. That's just spotlighting the fact that you're using cliches. If you're not doing anything to subvert expectations, you don't get points. It's not, so you don't get points for being clever for just by saying, hey, see this? It's pretty hackneyed writing, right? Yeah, see how dumb that is? Yeah. And, whatever. But moving on, the tone of the story is really weird. At first it's all super serious with him, hating Konoha. Naruto hates Konoha. He doesn't give a shit. He'll beat the crap out of anybody who says something or derogatory to him and stuff like that. And then in the middle of it, after Kakashi, and also Kakashi hates him and wants to kill him, and they have a huge thing, and then he just starts I'm gonna take a super secret triple S rank mission to find out what's under Kakashi's mask, and everybody loved it. It's a super jokey chapter, and it's pick a fucking tone, be consistent. It's also really brisk, entire scenes will happen in a sentence or two, just to get things going, and it's just in the end, this is just a super Naruto fic because he has all the black magic that he can use to his content. Kyuubi's free, all that stuff. He has all that stuff, and everybody hates him, and he's too cool to give a shit, and that's really boring. It's really boring, and like I said, the writing's not super clever, even though it tries to be. Yeah, no. This gets a firm no, and it's getting kicked off my list. Okay. Moving forward is Lacking an Anchor by dogbertcarroll. And this is one of the many dogbertcarroll fics where Xander gets sent to the DC universe. Or, comics universe. I think he only has 2 or 3 for the DC and then a couple more for Marvel. But yeah, so he gets sent after Willow casts a spell that she didn't understand on him. And then we see Xander just, joke around, tease, and fuck with a whole bunch of the Justice League. Get, special weapons because he's playing around with a whole bunch. And just try to enjoy himself while getting other people to get him back. As well as also cutting back to Sunnydale every now and then to see how they're handling his absence. The Scoobies are handling his absence. So I've said before that there's a couple of these that he's done, but they're all different enough that each one is its own unique experience. and I like them all individually. This one, like I said, I love this guy's sense of humor, and I love these jokes. This league is fun. The league members, especially how he deals with Etrigan and stuff, is really funny. And some of the league members get infected with his humor, so like Etrigan and some of the others, we get multiple Jokers instead of just the one. So it's really fun. I enjoyed it. Yeah, you know, like as with all of his, I wish there was more, but this what's there is still amazing, and yeah, it's staying on my list. So now we have another story by Case 13, which apparently he had an alternate name, Phosphor, F-O-S-F-O-R, if you're curious. But yeah, he made this story is Crimson Edge, which is basically Naruto after he gets sealed in the Forest of Death. I was about to say Forbidden Forest. After he gets sealed by Orochimaru in the Forest of Death, he wakes up in a mindscape and finds he has a Zanpakuto from Bleach, and she like is super in love with him and stuff like that. Like, so the story moves forward from that point, and it's a serious Naruto. Like, he becomes more serious and like calm and collected. He's still a little goofy, but it's all like toned down, and and that kind of spreads to the other characters. Like, there's a couple changes in the preliminary fights because of that, bunch of character moments do happen that are pretty interesting, and we see certain relationships. Like, we see Hayate training Naruto because Naruto has a sword, and Hayate's pretty underutilized character, at least in the stories that I read, mainly just because he was really only existing for the preliminaries and then like one scene later. But yeah, I wish it had. It's interesting to see the changes that occur from all these characters that hit. Like, Sakura gets a huge change. Ino at least becomes a bit more serious. Tenten becomes a bigger part, and how she interacts with her team is different. And of course, Naruto is very different in his actions, and it would have been great if it had gone somewhere. But like Livewire previously, it's a lot of moving pieces and setup and build up, but it doesn't get to any place where payoffs start occurring. Like, it doesn't reach the finals. You know, this just ends up drying out in the middle of the training arc between the preliminaries and the Chunin exam finals. And yeah, it's essentially the same thing as Livewire, where it's like, I liked what's here, and if it had continued and some payoffs had come, like, you know, actually paid off, would have been great. But what's here enough is good, but not enough. It leaves you hanging too much to actually keep it on my list. Right. Now we have another one for Case 13 called Reload. And this one is focused on Naruto and Sasuke, and it's a time loop. It's a time loop story. But unlike the later ones, where it's unlike the Immortal time loops, which I think I've talked about already, where it's just like each scene is just a different segment from random time loops, because those stories are more collaborative and like made by other people putting in. This is all Case 13, and this is a single loop story, but it's a loop that's like way in, like, we don't know how long they've been looping, just enough to know that they've grown very comfortable with each other and very, very strong. Well, strong in the sense that they know where a lot of shit is, and they know a lot of jutsus and stuff like that, because their power resets back to back to zero essentially when they start looping. But yeah, and unlike the previous Case 13 story, where it was pretty much just in Konoha in the very confined setting, here they're just traveling a lot, and it's basically a road trip story, and it lets him stretch his world building skills, which, like I said, in The Art of the Deal, which he wrote, he's really good at doing this world building of just making, oh hey, there was this old folklore, and hey, let's make it interesting to read and stuff like that, and you know, all these things. And it's also interesting because, again, this is pretty far into their looping cycle, so you can also get bits of like, hey, this is what I did, and this like stories of learning of how they learned past abilities and stuff like that. So those hop in, and this is meant to be like a relaxation loop. They don't care. They're going on vacation. And screw anybody who wants to interfere. So it's very much on the humor side with occasional bits of serious, but that it doesn't feel out of place because again, this is a serious world and there is death, but the serious bits feel justified because it feels like they're there to like highlight how much Naruto and Sasuke's relationship has grown over these loops, and it makes the contrast between the humor make the humor all that funnier. I feel I love it a lot. I wish it had continued, but sadly, review what you got, not what you want, but this is still great, and this stays on my list. Okay. The next story we have is The Watchman by MadHat886. I think I've had a couple of MadHat fics on this list before. This one's actually complete, so that's a big difference between his others. And it's basically, so it starts at the end of the Watchman comic. You could say the movie as well, but there was a couple slight differences between. So it starts at the end of the comic. Rorschach saying he's gonna reveal the secret to everybody, and Dr. Manhattan kills him. But instead of killing him, Rorschach ends up in Gotham and in the DC universe, and he just starts, okay, their villains are here, let's start killing them. And then the Justice League start finding out about him. They start trying to capture him. They eventually capture him. Speech occurs about how, hey, you guys just, you should kill certain villains or all this stuff, and I'm here to do that because you guys won't, and blah, blah, blah. Then they get arrested. He kills more villains, breaks out of prison, blah, blah, blah. And that repeats like 3 or 4 times for the first half of the story. That's like 40 chapters that keeps repeating. And then we go into the other part where there's like, okay, more villains that also don't give a shit now because they take a page out of Rorschach's book and start killing everybody as well. And then we have a huge thing where, hey, super crossover where all the universes combine, villains and heroes from everywhere start showing up. It's not, so the story's not bad. Like, there's a lot of chapters, but the fact that they're actually they're really short actually kind of helps. Like, you can breeze through these chapters really quickly, and so it does kind of feel easier to read, but it's super repetitive. The other main, like, aside from a couple spelling mistakes that occur, there's like a couple spelling mistakes in every chapter. Not like 5 in the whole story. There's like 5 every chapter or so, but that's forgivable and not that big a deal. But like, the biggest problem was that it's just so repetitive early on, and that killed my interest in this story. Like, it's an okay story. But it's just so much of Rorschach just hammering his point home that like, hey, saving these villains all the goddamn time means other people are dying, and you're just doing it. And I agree with Rorschach to a certain degree, but just hearing it hammered again and again and again becomes tedious and tiring, and it just made me not care about the story. If you can push past it, the story, like I said, the writing itself is okay, and the story itself is fine. Like, it's even pretty it's even somewhat interesting seeing this dichotomy and seeing the Justice League, because each time the repetition happens, some people get convinced and start, shifting over. But I just couldn't get past the first half, and it's just so, yeah. If you can get past that repetition, there's a good story here. Me, it just didn't work for me, so I can say, like, you can check it out, but it's not gonna stay on my list. Right. Now we got another basically kind of DC crossover with Alfred: A History by Salt Kettle. And this is how we find out how Alfred actually met the Wayne family and to that. And here's the story. Harry Potter, on his 17th birthday, stayed at the house until the very last second. Voldemort shows up, and they have a small fight, and then Harry kills him in a accidental way, and then decides, okay, I'm just gonna clear out my vault and go live like a muggle and get a small job and do that, because it turns out he doesn't have money. So he gets a small job, and then, you know, accidentally stumbles across some criminals that were getting spied on by MI5, subdues them, and then impresses MI5, so he gets training in various things like that. And then at his job at the hotel, he delivers Bruce Wayne because the Martha Wayne was pregnant and during a hostage situation, so he helped deliver her and became his godfather. And then they go, after finding out, then he goes back to Diagon Alley one last time to learn that everybody he knows is basically going to be leaving the country soon. So hey, I have no reason to stay here. Let's go with the Waynes. There you go. That's the story. And you never have to read it now. Like, it's not interestingly written. The tone and everything is very matter of fact, and like, it doesn't feel, there's no big moments. Like, even the first fight is the only like super interesting moment, and that's really short and ends, like I said, in an anticlimactic way. But it also doesn't feel funny that it ended that way. There's no real jokes here or anything. There's no real like tenseness, or it's just kind of like a memoir that was told in a very dry writing. I've told you everything. You don't have to read it. I'm not gonna read this again. It's falling off my list. All right. And now the last story for this video is Who's a Hero by Rorschach's Blot. And Harry here, again, Harry Potter, witnesses something that man was not meant to see, and decides to become a superhero because of it, because it screwed with his mind so bad. He's going to become a superhero and fight Voldemort. And during his first outing, he's not exactly very clear about what his name is, and then an Abbott and Costello bit occurs. So, like, obviously, this is based on the Who's on First Abbott and Costello bit, and that's like a big part of the story. There are other sections, especially with the Death Eaters, which that humor is like just about like really pedantic stupidity, which is great, and I love it. Oh, great! It's just like I said before, I love this guy as well as dogbertcarroll. Like, these guys I love a lot. This is really funny. I love the original skit, and this plays off it really well. It's great. I recommend this a lot if you want a quick laugh, and yeah, this one is going to stay on my list. And there we have it. 7 more stories. 125 have stayed on out of 218, so there we go. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to read any of the stories that are on my list, or in this video, the links are in the description. If you like the video and like what I'm doing, please leave a like, leave a comment. If you want to keep up to date on my journey, subscribe to the channel. And thanks for watching very much, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.